this presentation can be used both in modular class and in face-to-face class. The first is we have the prayer. After the prayer, we have the checking of attendance. Right after the checking of attendance, we have the reminders regarding the protocols or safety measures regarding COVID. Okay? First, we have to always wear your mask, observe social distancing, avoid touching your eyes and nose, for always sanitize, and for the last one, you have to use your own hand. Okay? We have to follow this protocol always. After giving the reminders, we have the review of the previous lessons. Okay? This lesson is a follow-up of the electromagnetic wave. So we have here the review of our previous lessons regarding different forms of electromagnetic waves. We have the 7 forms of electromagnetic waves, the radio waves down to the gamma rays. Okay? After giving the review of previous lessons, we have the presentation of the objectives. Okay? And our objectives is that we have to determine the practical applications of the different regions of the electromagnetic spectrum. Second, we have to illustrate the practical applications of the different regions of the electromagnetic spectrum through a collage, a jingle, a rap song, or through act and tell. And the last one is explain the effects of electromagnetic radiation to living things in the environment. Okay. After giving the objectives, we have the motivation. And our motivation, I have here a puzzle. Okay. And within the puzzle, we have to look for the name of the devices even in the puzzle. Okay. The words will be placed vertically, horizontally, diagonally, or even backwards. For example, we have your television. Okay. We have your television. Okay. One of the devices here is the television. Okay. After identifying after looking at the devices and the puzzle, you have to identify what form of electromagnetic makes these particular devices work. For example, television. What makes your television work? Okay. Other one, next we have also your satellite. Okay. From satellite, we have your remote control. Okay. You have your flashlight. Okay. So those are some of the devices which are being influenced by the electromagnetic spectrum. After this motivation, there will be given an article. Okay, that article about the different uses of the electromagnetic spectrum. Okay, they are given 10 minutes to read that article about the different regions of the electromagnetic spectrum and their practical applications. Okay. After reading, pwede man po by group map or pwede po if ever sa individual or modular. Okay. After reading the article, we have to complete the table. Okay. And the table, we have the different electromagnetic waves. And on the other side, we have their applications. Okay. What we have DC for what we have read on the article given to them. Okay. After completing the table, they have to present their work on the class or to the class. After completing the table, since they have now the different ideas about the application of the electromagnetic spectrum, they can now perform or show the practical applications of the different regions of the electromagnetic spectrum by means of these 5 activities. Okay. For those who want to make a collage, okay, we have also for more artistic one, okay, they can make a collage. For those who are more of psychomotor, they can have the jingle, or they are more of musical, they can have the jingle or the rap song. Okay. And for more of for those who like psychomotor, we have the act and tell. Okay. For the oral explanation, explanation, for my oral explanation, this group should be divided into two, ma'am. I have to enter I have the regular class, and the other one are those with eyepiece if ever there is an eyepiece in the class. Okay. So, for the oral explanation, they have to, for the eyepiece, they have to give the use of electromagnetic spectrum in their community. Where can they use electromagnetic waves in their community? Particularly on their community as an IP community. Okay. Their presentation is being graded by these particular rubrics. Okay. We have here the rubrics for this activity. Okay. The perfect score is 10, wherein the ideas they are presented are complete and exceed expectations. 8 points for those that show the ideas are complete. 5 for share some ideas, and 0 for the output and all. Okay. After giving that the activity, we have to proceed now with the abstraction. Okay. And the abstraction, we have to identify the pictures given. Okay. What are the different pictures given there? And then they have to determine the electromagnetic waves that makes this device work. Okay. For example, for number 1, we have the CT scan. Okay. And what makes the CT scan work? Either you can have for example, CT scan, we have your radio waves, or we have your gamma rays for your CT scan. Okay? And that is for the abstraction. And the last one now is our application. Is the application. Okay? For the application, we have to write the effects. We have to write the effects of the given electromagnetic waves on living things around the environment when exposed in large amount. I take note that there are also useful and disadvantages and advantages of using electromagnetic waves. Okay? Some are beneficial, some also can cause hazard to living things. Okay? For example, we have your electromagnetic waves. We have your gamma rays, we have your X-rays, and we have the ultraviolet rays. Okay? For UV or for ultraviolet rays and X-rays, you have to give the harmful effect it gives on the organism. Okay? Too much exposure of ultraviolet rays or X-rays can cause harm to an organism, okay? Either to plants or animals or humans. Okay? For example, okay, what harmful effects can be brought about by too much exposure of ultraviolet radiations? Okay. To some kind of sunburn, okay? If not, the most grievous effect is that it could cause skin cancer. Okay. How about we have also your gamma rays and ultraviolet rays also. What is the harmful effect on the environment? Okay. For UV rays, too much exposure of ultraviolet radiation environment can cause what? Okay, we have global warming, isn't it? No?
What is gamma?
Gamma rays ma'am for last na siya the same also with the gamma radiation ma'am.
Okay.
So those for treating cancer with the gamma rays ma'am. So too much radiation makakause the harm sa environment. Radiation man. Okay. Next, we have the assessment or the evaluation. Okay. For the assessment of evaluation, we have to identify, it is only true or false. You have to identify if the given statement is correct and false if it is wrong. Okay? I have given 5 items on this one. And for the last one, assignment. Okay. An assignment, that is, for the assignment, we have the one half-full piece of white paper. They have to explain at least 2 health issues brought about by electromagnetic waves.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Congratulations. Completed.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good.
So, my topic for this lesson is all about the 3 types of planes. But of course, before I'm going to start with my discussion, I have to present first my objectives. So, the objectives are this one. First, define planes and its 3 types. Second is differentiate planes of fact, policy, and value. The third is listen analytically to classify statement according to its type and formulate a statement for each type of plane. So next to that is, I would do first the preliminary activities such as the prayer, greetings, checking of attendance, safety protocols, classroom management, and review of previous lesson. Next to that is, I will proceed with the lesson proper. So to start with, I am going to start with an activity. So most of us, for us teachers, these words are so easy. But then, as I have observed, most of the students nowadays, they have difficulties in understanding words. So I'm going to unlock some words that we are going to use further in the discussion. So first we have the planes, the fact, the value, and policy. So we are going to translate this one into Tagalog first, and then into Bisaya. And if there are problems among the students, so they can also have to translate it into their own words. So it will be easier for them to understand the lesson. Next to that is, we will proceed with the activity 2. So, I'm going to slowly introduce to them what will be our topic. So, first, what claim am I? So, in this activity, I'm going to give some statements and the students will identify if it is a claim of fact, claim of policy, or claim of value based on their prior knowledge. So, every row, they will have their representative and I'm going to give them a cardboard. So every time I'm going to present the sentence or the statement, they are going to raise their answer. So it's like a quiz bee. And for every correct answer, they will have 1 point. So these are the questions that I'm going to present to them. The source of the condition. And then the answer is claim of fact. Second, I have 6 questions for them. And then, next to that, we will proceed to the analysis. So, of course, for the students to understand or to have a clear understanding about what they have done, so we have to have our analysis or the discussion of the topic. So we have here, these are the scores for the activity, and this is for the analysis. So what is claim? And then characteristics of a good claim. And then the 3 types of claim. The claims of fact, claims of policy, and claims of value. So first, for the claims of fact, so I'm going to give them the definition and, of course, the examples. And then I'm going to give them some clue. So these are the questions to answer to check if it is a claim of fact. So can we investigate it through research and interviews? Did it happen? Does it exist? Or is it true? So that is the claim of fact. Next is, these are the examples for the claim of fact. Next is a claims of value. So the definition, and then another questions to answer to check if the claim is a claim of value. So these are questions. And then examples.
of policy. So definition and then example. So this time, we are going to proceed with the abstraction. So let us check if they really understood the lesson. So what is claim? I'm going to ask them what is claim, what are the characteristics of a claim, what are the three types of claim, and what are the key questions to answer for each type of claim. And of course, I could also ask the students to give examples so we can check if they truly understand. Next is for the evaluation. So of course, during the discussion, I am going to ask randomly the students some examples for every claim. So they can create their own statement for the claim of fact, claim of value, and so with the claim of policy. Next is for the evaluation. So we are going to have a short quiz. So for the short quiz, okay. For the application, I'm going to ask the students to formulate a simple statement for each type of claim. So they can use the social, environmental, or even political issues in the place where they live. And then, next to that is for the evaluation, which is the quiz time. So for the quiz time, we have here the direction, analyze the statement and identify if it is a claim of fact, a claim of value, or a claim of policy. So write your answer in the space provided before the number. So these are the statements for the quiz. We have 10 items and these are the answers. For the agreement, assignment or agreement, they are going to read and study in the class the topic about multimodal and its elements. So that is for the next discussion. That's all.
Okay, thank you and congratulations.
My fellow teachers who are around today. So I would like to, this time around, I will be presenting my lesson for my English 10 students in section Quirino with the descriptive title of the world literature. English 10 has the descriptive title of world literature. The next is, on the start of my class or of my instruction, of course, it is inevitable that I have to initiate first the stipulation, the promulgation of the learning objectives to my class, which are first at the end of the lesson or 1 hour lesson, the students or 85% of the students should be able to first distinguish the 3 types of claims. Second, appreciate the importance of knowing the 3 types of claims. And the third one will be formulate claims of fact, value, and policy. Okay, that's it. So in this juncture, of course, still in an actual class that is no longer to be discussed before the class. This one, subject matter, the content, integration of this lesson is going to be that it fosters or develops comradeship and teamwork among learners in class. And the literacy to be able to define the following terms when we talk about literacy, so it is all about the words, the vocabularies. So be able to define these following terms, opinion, arguments, claim, fact, value, policy. Next is numeracy. Students are expected to enumerate the list, enumerate or list the 3 types of claims. Then put or draw shapes such as triangle, star, and circle. That can be transpired during some of the activities now. Later. So the preliminaries are the preliminary activities in this instructional session of mine would be, of course, as I've done earlier, the stipulation or the promulgation of the learning objectives, then the motivation. Here are the objectives, motivation. So my motivation when entering the formal instruction of mine that day. Of course, it is imperative or essential to a teacher that there must be a motivation. And my motivation is that this one. I will be presenting to them a 4-peak, one-word activity. I will let them guess that or predict that one out of that, because this 4-peak, one-word activity, especially the previous time, it is very famous. So for sure they will really be enjoying that, or they will be enjoyed, and will unite them to interact the lesson. So what do you think is this all about, that picture? That's how the motivation of mine goes on. Then the next peak is that I have only 2 peaks now. And the following slide presents the answers of those West Philippine Sea, West Philippine Sea, and then ito is insurance companies that will lead or people pave their way to coming up or into predicting what could be the lesson of mine of that day. And the lesson is that we have claims. My subject lesson for that day is claims. So I will ask them, of course, first, what are these claims rather. So I will ask their insights or ideas about this one. And after asking that, I will read this one, the definition, which is being stipulated here in diri asa ako ang sa akong slide. Okay, claim is or are an arguable statement that defines or define your goal of the essay. In other words, it's an opinion or stand of someone or somebody on an issue or a certain issue. It is a central statement of a text where the writer tries to prove his points by providing details, explanations, and other types of evidence. After the presentation of the definition, I will be going to present the examples of these claims. COVID-19 first, COVID-19 is deadly, COVID-19, all these 19 I chose to provide examples like this because it is very timely, because we are still in the midst of this dreadful contagion, which is very relatable now to each and every one of us, regardless of age, that is. So that's it. And those are the examples of claims that I will be providing to them, to my class. Next slide will be the presentation of the characteristics of a good claim. Meaning, I will let them know what characteristics is, or what are these characteristics. Meaning, how the student, or how a certain person or a learner like them be able to notice if that is a part, or if that belongs to a claim. So the first thing, yan ma'am. 1, 2, 3, 4. A claim should be argumentative and debatable. A claim should be specific and focused. A claim should be tourist engaging. A claim should be logical. So if we give it a chance to teach this one in an actual form of teaching before the class, before my students, of course, I will be giving an example to this, and then I will transpose or translate this one into the vernacular form of language, which is the Cebuano or Bisaya. Na mao ni siya ang kuan kanang para mahibal-an nato nga mao ni ang claim, di lang siya basta claim, good claim. Mao ni ang characteristics, ang characteristics iyahang characteristics is ang iyahang kumbaga ang iyahang kinaiya kung sa tao pa, iyang mailhan para na, that is a claim, that is a good claim, that is argumentative siya, debatable, mo na ang claim na anak ko. So I will be providing examples. This one, smoking is dangerous to one's health. So that is one of the many examples of a claim. Types of claims. Claim is being classified or categorized into 3. So I will tell my class, I will tell my learners that there are 3 types of claims, and the first one that they must know is claims of fact. Isa class and claims of fact. So I will be giving the definition as per my slide or PPT, my PowerPoint presentation. So I will give the definition, the meaning, asserts that a condition existed, exists, or will exist, and agrees on facts or things. So from the very word of it, from the very word itself, rather, the fact, it is not just an opinion, but it's based on evidence, so that it can be considered as a claims of fact. And also with the with the ilang timailan na mo na ang claims of fact. There are questions other to check if a claim is a claim of fact. Can we investigate it through research and interviews? Did it happen? Or factual? It's all about fact when we talk about claims of fact. And I will provide an example or examples. COVID-19 and flu spread in similar ways. Number 2, teens who engage in unprotected sex will develop STDs, became pregnant, and contract AIDS. So those are the examples that I will be giving to my students at that time. Then second type of a claim is claims of policy. These are statements that agree that something needs to be done. May it be making a law or calling for action. I will tell my class that, class, claims of policy, it's very easy to note that certain piece of statement or a sentence is a claim of policy or belongs to claims of policy if it is about calling for action. There is something legally related circumstances that belongs to claims of policy. So a claim of policy usually has the modals should, must, and ought to. It's very easy to bear in mind, to keep in mind that that particular claim belongs to a claim of policy if that has these modals, katong modal verbs like should, must, and ought to. So automatic claims of policy na siya na belong. The next thing to keep in mind if that belongs to claims of policy is it answers the question what should be or should not be done. So that belongs to claims of policy. Here are the examples. Marijuana should not be legalized because many individuals will abuse it. So I will let my class scrutinize the example. What are those as I've said earlier, those things that they should be kept in mind so that they could be able to decipher or to recognize if that really belongs to this kind of claim or what claim is this? The claim of policy. So marijuana should not be legalized because many individuals will abuse it. So that really, this example that I have given here is really or is indeed an example of a claim of policy. Second is legislation must be passed to stop the sale of cigarettes. So those are the examples that I am going to give to my learners now. So the third and the last form or type of a claim is a claims of value. A claim that is based on preference such as likes or dislikes, good or bad. So this is a very basic class because you have to really remember or consider if that certain instance or thing you like the most or you dislike the most. That's it. So that belongs to, or that can be classified as claims of value. It usually compares two ideas against one another. Question to answer is a claim belongs to a claim of value. Is it good or bad? Tama ba or mali? Is it valuable or not valuable? How significant it is. So from the very word itself, again, the value, it talks about the significance, its weight of importance. So that talks about claims of value. So here are the examples. Animal testing is the worst way to check medical problem. Abortion is immoral. Same-sex marriage must be allowed. So it talks about when you like it, the weight of value or importance as to your in taking your stand, which falls under this kind of claim, the claims of value. So after the delivery of discussion, elaboration, I will have this quick test. A quick test checking the students if they really get the lesson I have delivered earlier to them. So number one, some of those students away from learning. Number two, feedback should undergo censorship, privacy, and child safety. Third, it is totally unethical for Russia to not share the COVID-19 vaccine with other countries, given that its technology from which it was based has been proven safe. The fourth one, children are the future of the communities, hence programs such as for education should be given of high importance. That may also prevent them joining the child labor practices. Fifth, the death penalty should be abolished because it does nothing to do with the reduction of cases, especially murder. So I have stipulated na 5 test items only for the quick test, measuring the students or assessing them as to how the extent of their learning as far as my discussion is concerned earlier. So the learners will be able to come up with a generalization with these following questions. After the quick test, I will be asking them some insights about the lesson. What is a claim, class? What are the characteristics of a good claim? What are the different types of a claim or claims? What are the key questions to answer for each type of a claim? And then, after that generalization, I will, in this part of the instructional session, I will let them formulate something. In this part, the class will be divided into 3 groups. Each group will be tasked to formulate claims of fact, value, and policy according to the topics given in the box. So at least 3 topics each group. So there will be a sense of collaboration here coming from the learners. This activity shall be taken for, I have also stipulated a time frame for them to do the activity. This activity shall be taken for 5 minutes, each group to prepare, and 3 minutes for the presentation. So I have here the taxonomy or the name of the groups that will be used in that activity. So the group A will be named Andromeda, the group B will be named Big Dipper, group C will be named Cassiopeia. So I will let them know what are these main kind of taxonomization or naming. Andromeda, Big Dipper, this belongs to jargons in science. So here is the box now, the box. I have written there the possible topics that they would be able to use in that activity. COVID-19 vaccine, child labor, social media, distance or modular learning, teenage pregnancy, family relationship, human innovation, politics, gender and development, indigenous peoples. Assessment. So I am now here in this part of the instructional session at that day in which I will be checking as to how the extent of the learning of my learners or my students in this particular topic in English 10. On an activity sheet, learners will do the following tasks. So I have divided the assessment into 2 tests, the test 1 and the test 2. The test 1 is here are the mechanics or instructions which I have written here for my slide. Kindly put or draw the following shapes. A star, it entails value. Triangle, it entails a claim of policy, and circle, it pertains to a claim of value. So I have prepared 5 test items checking the extent of their learning in the topic about kinds or types of claims. It is just to force start. Number 1, it is just to force taxpayers to donate to a school. Number 2, the Philippine government should prioritize Filipino children choose to study in public schools. Number 3, public school performance in the Philippines has plummeted over the past 50 years. Number 4, the fourth one, Batangas is better than Baguio. 5th item, capital punishment needs to be re-implemented to stop the increase in crime rate. So those are the items, or test items for test 1. And at this time, this is the part 2 of the assessment. You have, or the learners are bound to compose a claim for these following topics. So, ako mismo ang provide sa topic na pwede na pilihan. So the first one is SOGPO, or I will tell them because most likely or most probably most of them or the learners are not really familiar to the very meaning, yung buong kahulugan talaga, what SUGI stands for. So I will tell them SUGI is sexual orientation and gender identity expressions bill. And the second, I have here ROTC, or which is very infamous previously and even becoming very famous because of the newly elected Vice President's marching order of the mandatory or ROTC. So, or the ROTC is training for I know it. ROTC
Sa college.
Training
course man ang
Of
ano.
course.
I also forgot. Sa ROTC.
Reserve officer. Reserve officer training course.
Course. Okay.
Then number 3, the third one is criminal liability. Okay. So those are the items or things that I have packed up for the assessment. And the last part of the instructional session is the assignment. I will be I am going to ask my class to make a scrapbook that portrays examples of photos indicating the different types or the various types of claims. I have also stipulated here as part of the mechanics or rules that this must be submitted on June this kind of date, and as well as a prompt that this should be submitted promptly. So at least 2 photos per type of a claim. And in the very, very last part of that, of course, I will ask them any further ideas or questions, queries regarding with the lesson we have tackled. That's all. Thank you. Stay safe.
Okay. Who's your first server?
Si Ma'am Yanis po, ma'am.
Okay.